Trivedi obviously playing 5/5 formation Tenki, as well as his Artifact Ignitions, cards that Akridge is not playing. So might see a lot more battle stops and general control of momentum on Akridge's side of the field. But could that place him on the defensive? We're going to have to find out.
Our players are ready. And it's time to duel with Akridge taking the first turn. Pot of Dualities up first. Artifact Sanctum, Moral Talk, and Ice Hand are revealed. It seems like a pretty easy choice out of the three. I can certainly tell you what he's not going to take, as he is not the one running Artifact Ignition.
Yeah.
Takes Artifact Sanctum and returns the rest to the deck.
Certainly a strong first blow in the war for control over the field here. Artifact Sanctum, both a powerful control tool when it's bringing out Artifact Moral Talk for its destruction effect, as well as a great piece of field presence once that Moral Talk hits the table.
At this point, it's pretty much assured that he would know what his opponent is playing as well.
Yeah.
So we'll assume that his decisions are based on having this information.
5 back row sets for Deon Akridge. No monster.
No monster that he's willing to play, anyway. Trivedi's up next, and he does know that there is an Artifact Sanctum waiting for him. And he immediately summons Traptrix Myrmilio to see if he can force it out. Instead, she's met with a Fiendish Chain, and Trivedi will not add a trap hole to his hand.
Akridge would love to keep his one-card advantage here and just keep Trivedi pinned down with simplification, keeping him from redeeming those search effects.
He's thinking about it.
If Akridge can control the pace of the duel here and dictate when exchanges happen, Trivedi could have problems because he doesn't have nearly as many reactive cards. He'll be forced to play the role of the aggressor walking into that big back row.
I think he was really hoping
that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now you have to wonder how many of those 3 sets he just made are bluffs. And out comes the Moral Talk.
On the plus side here, at this point, Akridge has used 2 cards on that one Traptrix monster.
Yeah. Which is interesting. It suggests he's going to play to a faster pace than I personally at least would have predicted. Or he has no monsters. That's the other option. He just didn't have an alternative attacker to try and put up against that Myrmilio.
Well, Trivedi's field doesn't have any more monsters either, and Akridge has 2 more slots to fill with more trap cards.
Yep. Poking with the Moral Talk early. And it hits.
Yep.
2100.
No Sanctum from Trivedi, which would have made it... Yeah, would have made things not so good for Akridge, having used a Sanctum and a Fiendish Chain all on one Myrmilio. 4th card goes to the back row of Akridge. And Trivedi now summons Firehand. Torrential Tribute meets it. And Trivedi is considering his options. Remember, Trivedi is the one with 1 copy of Wiretap in his deck. If he has it, he could choose to use it now and start off his chain of hand summons. Instead, he uses Forbidden Lance on his Firehand to keep it around and get the Moral Talk off the field. Excellent turnaround by Trivedi, assuming it goes through.
Wow.
And it does. Firehand's down to 800 attack points, but Akridge is wide open. Declares the attack of Firehand. And it appears to be successful. $5,900 to $7,200. Akridge in the lead in terms of life points, but Trivedi did a great job this turn of turning around the momentum of the game.
Trivedi definitely wants to play the aggressor here. We just weren't sure if he was going to be able to do it, and it looks like, oh.
Akridge has a second sanctum, though.
Looks like he was going to be able to do it for a moment there, but...
And he uses it to bring out Moraltok. Now, if he destroys that Firehand, Moraltok will go down with it.
Not going to accomplish a lot. Unless he has something up his sleeve.
You could just not activate the effect and use it to keep a monster around, but...
Seems like a bit of a waste.
In this case, I guess he might be setting up for a Consular Pleiades play, if he's got, say, Call of the Haunted, which does not appear to be... No, he's got two of them.
That would be gutsy against a back row of 4 cards.
4 cards, I don't know. Appear to be discussing whether or not Moraltok's ability is going to be used. It is not. Definitely the wise thing to do, because otherwise you're playing right into Trivedi's hands, literally. And Akridge is up. Things did kind of get out of control there. Akridge has a lot of things to think about.
It's interesting because that wasn't even like a simplifying exchange like we're used to seeing in the mid-game from this kind of pseudo-mirror match or formal mirror match situation. It was just like this one-turn sequence turnaround.
We should also note that we've seen both of Akridge's Moraltoks.
Mm-hmm.
He only plays 2. And so he summons Firehand. And declares an attack which is blocked by Fiendish Chain. Now, crashing Firehands here is not going to do him a whole lot of good. That'll be basically exactly the same thing as trying to blast the Firehand with Moraltok last time around.
Yeah.
But it seems that that is what he was trying to do, and he shifts Moraltok to defense position. I'm not certain what crashing those hands accomplishes, other than clearing your own field and putting an ice hand on the opponents.
Definitely some peculiar decisions.
In defense position, Moraltok is weak enough to be run down by a Firehand. And then a Call of the Hunt is going to bring Moraltok back to the field. Yeah, there is that call that he could have used for a Pleiades play. And this time, he has opted to activate the effect of Moraltok, and it falls into a bottomless trap hole. Firehand goes to defense, which is where he wants it.
Akridge is just bleeding at this point.
And Trivedi's also changing to defense. Interesting dynamic. If the game slows down drastically, it does give Akridge a chance to get back in. The question is, who's going to find a way to answer the Firehand first? fire formation Tanky from Trivedi. Fetches one of his two Brotherhood of the Fire Fist bears. Even if you're not going to use it right now, it's always good to have on hand.
Depending on what his level 4 options are beyond that bear, this might be a good opportunity for Trivedi to try for an Abyss Dweller.
So, if he could get two Beast Warriors out, he's actually got a copy of Bujinte Kagasuchi.
Yeah, which would be excellent.
In his deck, which would be very useful here.
Resisting the destruction.
Yep.
But I think he's...
Black Ship?
I think he's probably a turn away from that.
Send it to the graveyard instead of destroying it?
Black Ship would be good too. Takes out the possibility of hitting into a back row attack stop, at the very least.
Abyss Dweller, of course. It's always in there.
Yeah. A little bit more vulnerable than Black Ship, but definitely far more controlling. He is summoning the bear. Let's see what he does.
Bear's in play, and we've got rank 4 Xyz summon. He's got to be careful. Yep, it is the Black Ship.
It is the Black Ship. He goes with the safe bet, probably very wisely.
Question is, does Akridge have the Black Horn of Heaven to counter it?
Yeah, Trivedi probably figures if he can work around a Black Horn of Heaven or a Traptrix Trapple Nightmare, then he doesn't want to risk attacking into something else. Which is a wise move.
And it's a good thing
passes
he's got
the opportunity to use the
chain.
effect because of the Nightmare.
Fiendish Chain there is stopping Akridge from immediately just switching Firehand back to attack position.
Yeah, it's buying him that turn's time he needs to outplay the possibility of a Nightmare.
Smart stuff.
And Akridge keeps the defense up.
Black Ship, of course, can only send away monsters that are face up because it has to take a look at their attack points. So a face down monster will be safe.
Oh, and Akridge has a compulsory.
Uses it just as soon as his turn starts, and that's going to keep that Firehand on the board. Things not quite going to plan. No further plays for Trivedi, and Akridge is back up.
That could be a significant turning point.
Well, if he can just get some offense going here. And he flip summons Traptrix Dianaya.
Easily the MVP of the top 16. Oh, and the torrential
wipes the field. No target for Firehand, so that chain of hands will stop. Card D is up next for Akridge.
Could be the beginning of some momentum, but no.
Moon. Nope.
Draws at the Book of Moon.
Even if Trivedi doesn't really have a follow-up in the form of another attacking monster, that card isn't going to be able to do its thing, because it only works during the turn it's normal summoned. Trivedi takes a look at his graveyard, checks Akridge's, looking for power traps, sanctums. He may or may not know that his opponent only has 2 Moraltox in his deck. Normally, even if I knew my opponent was playing this particular deck, I would assume they ran 3 of each. Soul Charge is up next, though. And he's gone with 3 monsters to bring back. Bear, Firehand, and Traptrix Myrmileo, which will trigger the Myrmileo's effect and let him get another one of those face-down cards off the board.
That's going to be a tremendous help.
And he picks the one closest to Akridge's deck, which is
Needle Sealing. Wow.
Unfortunately, that doesn't do Akridge as much good as he might think it does, because it destroys the Firehand.
Yeah, so he's still going to lose his monster.
He got lucky that Trivedi didn't pick the other one,
yep.
But he still has a lot of work to do if he wants to get by. Forbidden
And
Lance,
he has a
though,
lance.
keeps
Wow.
that bear on the field. That's
So now
both lances.
that monster's... What was that?
That was Firehand not being activated.
That's interesting.
Bear's effect was activated, though, and it took the card D off the field. Akridge top deck, Straptrix Mermoleo. Pretty good. But it's met with Fiendish Chain.
Not good enough.
Another card joins the bear and plays back to Akridge. He sets a face-down monster, and Trivedi takes another look at his own graveyard, perhaps considering Call of the Haunted during the end phase. Instead, it's Artifact Sanctum during the end phase. Just as good, if not better. Artifact Begaltalk comes into play in defense position. And that would mean that his last face-down card is Moral Talk. Which it is.
Yes, it is.
And that'll come out and take out the Traptrix. It's pretty clear that Akridge doesn't have another Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare there, otherwise he would have used it on Begaltalk.
Use it on the Begaltalk, yeah.
We'll see if Trivedi picks up on that, though, as he's looking for Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmares right now. And he decides not to use the Moral Tox effect, just in case. Not necessarily a bad decision, considering that he had no cards in hand, and then he rips Mind Control. That is nasty. Taking a Fire Hand, which he's more than likely going to combine with that bear now before his opponent has a chance to do anything about it.
This would be the biggest Ixies universe ever. I don't think he's even going to go there. Yeah, just swinging away.
Attacks with the Moral Talk.
Yep.
Attack is successful. Begaltalk is next. Bear is up next. And that will trigger Bear's ability, if it is in fact successful. Akridge does have a Dimensional Prison in his main deck that could cause it to not be successful.
There's the prison.
And there it is. That's unfortunate for Trivedi, because it means he has to give a Fire Hand back to his opponent. Now, he cannot attack with that Fire Hand. He mind controlled it.
No. He'll go into Pleiades and just punt it if it becomes a problem. Yeah, there we go. Not ideal, for sure. I'm sure he'd rather use that Pleiades to nullify a further threat, but...
Akridge still has something in his hand.
Yeah. This is still definitely a game.
He attempts to crash, which will
Akridge
force
forces
the
the
first
bump.
activation. And oh, Dark Hole's next.
Nice.
And Pleiades cannot save itself. It's already used the ability.
That Fire Hand is coming back. That is... There it is.
That prison was absolutely brutal.
That
Let's
was
turn
clutch.
this one on its
Yeah,
head.
that prison was clutch.
Call of the Haunted
for the Mermelio.
And that's it. One-dimensional prison, making the actions out of the order, trying to attack with everything first instead of Xyz summoning immediately with the hand.
That was a hell of a game.
Yeah.
Akridge opening up huge. Trivedi fighting back to take control, seemingly destined for the win. And then Akridge fighting back off that prison at the last second.
One turn of the card is all it takes, and Deon Akridge is up 1-0 in the semifinals. All right, now Akridge is ready. Trivedi is ready, and he'll be starting us off this time. Trivedi opens with Trapchik's Mermelio. Searching out a bottomless trap hole. It seemed like he wanted to play another search effect right away there. But no, gotta follow the proper procedures. And other than that, Mermelio's just kind of sitting there. He's going to need some backup from some trap cards. And we know he's got at least one.
Trivedi clearly giving this the proper amount of thought given his position in the match, and ends with just one set.
Just
interesting.
One set. Ice hands up, gets under bottomless trap hole.
Huh?
He activates breakthrough skill in response to the attack.
Trying to deprive Ice Hand of a target for its effect, keeping Akridge off of Fire Hand.
Excellent move.
Nice little trick, since the breakthrough skill remains live with an additional effect from the graveyard.
Even better than that, though. He showed him the bottomless trap hole he got and said only one card. So if you're the opponent, you got to think, well, that's the bottomless trap hole. But he got him with that breakthrough skill.
I think Akridge was right there, thinking he was going to be able to swing into that, ducking under the bottomless trap hole with the Ice Hand.
It's not that easy to win the World Championship qualifier, though. Two cards set finish out Akridge's turn. And Trivedi is thinking about how best to capitalize on this. He decides to go with an Ice Hand of his own. Even in the case of Torrential Tribute, there's still two cards down there, so that Ice Hand would be handy.
Yeah.
Ice Hand attacks directly. And Akridge takes it. It appears he does not have Dimensional Prison this time.
Akridge with a bit of a furrowed brow.
Mermelio's up
There's that
next,
Memory of an Adversary that he
and
side-decked in.
He gets stolen by Memory of an Adversary. So basically, Akridge is going to take the damage that he would have taken from the direct attack, but it'll get rid of Memory. Now, at the end of his next turn, he's going to get that Mermelio back, and it's special summoned to his side of the field, so he's going to be able to use its effect to destroy one of Trivedi's now 3 face-down Speller Trap cards.
Yeah, that was gorgeous.
Akridge walls up as well. And it's during the end phase of Trivedi's turn that Mermelio is going to come back into play for the opposing team. If you're going to take your shot, you got to do it now.
Again, Akridge still packing second Memory of Anniversary as well as his 2-dimensional prisons.
And that's probably what Trivedi is thinking about right now. Like, well, I got hit by the adversary. One of those is probably a dimensional prison. And I don't think he's willing to give up that Ice Hand without taking down more than one of Akridge's cards. He's doing a little math and decides to make the attack. Ice Hand swings in, and Akridge does have the prison. Just what he was hoping would not happen, because now Mirmaleo is going to have a direct shot at his own life points. And a shot at one of his face-down cards. He chooses... It looked like he chose Artifact Begaltok, and Trivedi is considering whether or not he wants to use his breakthrough skill to negate it.
And he does.
That's pretty smart, because otherwise, Begaltok, the one copy, was going to the graveyard, and basically anything in his back row, any Moral Talks there, were not coming back.
Would not work for being destroyed on his own turn. Wow. That memory was huge.
It really is. Trivedi takes the attack from the Traptrix monster. And Akridge has another card to make up for the last one. Fire Formation Tanky comes down for Trivedi. But Akridge has the Mystical Space Typhoon to destroy it before it can resolve. And since it is a continuous spell, none of its effects apply.
Really cutting off Trivedi from what may be his most significant advantage in this matchup, if either duelist can be said to have such.
Coach Soldier Wolfbark is up next for Trivedi. But it's going to fall into a bottomless trap hole.
And it's gone.
Just seems like Akridge has this never-ending stream of cards coming to him. Because I'm looking over to the side, and he's still got a hand, even after filling up his spell and trap zones again and again.
Definitely seeing that impact of that higher natural trap count.
Yeah,
even after siding, we have to assume he's got more traps than Trivedi does.
And it really helps when you are literally taking cards from your opponent.
Yeah. Yeah, trade adversary against your opponent's card, then get that card. Make them choose between either wasting their breakthrough skill or just flat up losing another back row. Harsh. We're used to seeing Memory played for Bujin matchups and Fire Fist matchups, not so much for this mirror match, but can't argue with the results.
Yep. Trivedi walls up, face down monster. It's more spell and trap cards. And Akridge brings down a fire hand to join the pilfered Mirmaleo. And that leads Trivedi to use the bottomless trap hole that he had searched off the Mirmaleo back at the start of the game. And Akridge has wiretap, and bottomless trap hole goes back to the deck.
Akridge must have some considerable plans for that fire hand to commit the wiretap.
He's only got, what, one?
Double check.
Two in the side deck?
And he's got his two copies on the side, so he probably has another one. Doubt he'd just bring in one, but regardless, he probably only has one right now.
And that is an Xyz summon for Silent Honor Arc.
Just to keep it from being destroyed in case he was swinging into a fire hand or into a protective trap.
Yep. Trivedi had the face down ice hand, though, and that takes out Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare on Akridge's side. So at least one of them stayed in.
Yeah.
Fire hand joins it, but the tricky thing about Silent Honor Arc is that it can't be destroyed the first couple times they try, as long as it has Xyz materials. Now, what could go wrong here is if Trivedi has a second level 4 monster. That Silent Honor Arc is in attack position and could easily be consumed as Xyz material by another
Silent
Honor
Honor Arc.
Trivedi either hasn't got it or isn't willing to play it, though. And plays back to Akridge after another set card. He's going to go ahead and go on the offensive with Firehand, attacking into it with Silent Honor Arc. Now, Trivedi does have that one copy of Dimensional Prison in his side deck, which he could have brought in, and may in fact have right now. But it is not played. Firehand's destroyed. And because Silent Honor Arc was not destroyed by Firehand's effect, he can't do the then portion of it and bring out an Ice Hand. And again, he's only got 2 Ice Hands, and I believe we've seen both of them. One is currently banished. The other's in the graveyard. Checking his face down cards. And activates Mystical Space Typhoon on his own set card, presumably during the end phase of Akridge's turn. He destroys Beagletack, which was the card targeted earlier by Mirmalo. And Beagletack comes to the field. Summon is okay. And the effect is activated, destroying 1, 2
Wow.
Moraltaks. Double Moraltak opening.
Wow.
That is vicious. That is not what you want to see when you're 1 game away from elimination. But he made the play with Beagletack, and I mean, that's why you play it. Just in case this happens. And the 2 destruction effects of each Moraltak is enough to clear Silent Honor Arc from the field and represent more than enough attack to take the game if you take Beagletack into account. I don't see any mirror forces on either of these deck lists. And Trivedi's going to go for it. Battle phase. Beagletack attacks first. Artifact Sanctum on Akridge's side puts a stop to what would have been the end. And he doesn't have that breakthrough skill in the graveyard. That's nasty. In effect, that 1 Moraltak is going to block every single one of Trivedi's attacks this turn.
Yep. Because he's going to block the Beagletack push. There will be no replay there, and he's going to pop 1 Moraltak and then trade off, if at best, against the other.
I don't think you want to trade off here, though. This seems like get Pleiades onto the field.
This is rank 5 country now.
Possibly Volcasaurus, if he really wants that damage. I mean, it does not appear that Akridge has a hand at this point.
Mind Control in main phase 2.
Oh, okay. Well, that changes a lot of things. Now the play is definitely Pleiades.
Yep.
And Akridge is back under the gun. Though, that is only 4,600 damage if he has no plays this turn. 25 and 21.
It is 2 turns keeping Akridge off the table, though.
It's true. But he has to think hard about what he wants to use those materials on. Akridge shuts everything he's got. He had 1 card before. 2 now. And Trivedi looks for a second like he doesn't agree. And makes a count. Very smart, reading memory of an adversary, just in case there's another one there. And he activates the effect in the end phase to send that card back to Akridge's hand. You know, I wonder if he was checking the rarity of it to see what kind of foil bend it had. Because that card on top did look noticeably bendier than the other two. So perhaps he thinks he's going to hit the other adversary that way. Moral Talk declares an attack. Call of the Haunted is in the way, though. And Firehand is the card brought to the field. Now, Trivedi can bounce away.
And he does.
He bounces away the Call of the Haunted specifically, so the Firehand is never summoned.
Yep.
Moral Talk continues its attack. And if you can't hear it, people are going absolutely insane behind us. Most likely for the result of our other match between Jimmy Nguyen and Corey McDuffie. Consular Pleiades attacks directly, and Akridge is down to 200 life points. That's not even enough to run a Firehand into something. But he goes ahead and sets 2 more cards anyway. So 3 more cards anyways. Where are these cards even coming from? I have lost count at this point.
His hand is a clown car of trap cards at this point.
How do you keep having all of these cards when everything is getting blown away?
I just don't have monsters. Makes it really easy.
I guess so. You can just hold everything back.
Just don't have monsters.
Take your opponent's monsters. 4 face-down Speller traps. 200 life points remaining.
Pleiades swings.
Trivedi attacks with Pleiades. Compulsory evacuation device sends back what?
It's got to be the Pleiades.
And he still has to deal with Moral Talk.
Oh, yeah.
But he does have one of his own in the graveyard and a Call of the Haunted to back it up.
Yeah.
So I guess the question Trivedi's asking himself is, do I care about this, or does it benefit me in the long run to let it go? Because the Call of the Haunted is the real issue here. If you Lance here, Call of the Haunted gets chained anyways.
That still double blocks, so...
Thinking about it.
There's Lance.
That's the thing, though.
It's not going to be that helpful.
Keeps Pleiades on the field. But you still got to deal with the call for Moral Talk.
Yep.
And everybody's wishing right now that he had a second Lance. Well, first he has to hope that Akridge gets rid of Pleiades, and then he has to hope that he's got another Lance. And a quick fan out there, I did not see if there was another Lance there. Now, he does take out the Pleiades, because it would get back to being large enough to defeat Moral Talk. Trivedi decides not to trade the 2 and sets a card face down. I don't believe we've seen a Sanctum from him yet this game.
I don't believe we have.
Now would be a great time to have one.
Pass from Akridge.
Akridge ends his turn. Tanky for Bear. Be pretty huge right here. And he's checking the status of Akridge's trap count. There have been a lot of them. I can't blame anybody who hasn't been able to keep up with the number of traps that have been played in this game.
There's a bear.
He's got regular Bear, not Tanky for Bear.
It's not Tanky Bear.
Torrential Tribute threatens to destroy everything,
bear that
though.
can deal damage.
Nope.
Not dealing damage.
Not today, though. Akridge just doesn't want to give this up. He does not want to go to a third duel.
He would really like to win this.
Akridge sets a card. Trivedi sets a card.
No monster from Trivedi. Monster from Akridge.
Mirmilio.
Kind of the best possibility right now.
That is basically the best card he could have picked up. Because he has a lot of work to do in this match. Just special summoning something wouldn't do it the job.
And that's not going to get it done off Solemn Warning.
Solemn Warning drops Trivedi down to 2,800.
Certainly looking at that and seeing a 1-card deficit and a 3-card timer he did not want to deal with.
But he can't
3-turn
find
timer.
another monster.
Yeah.
Nobody's finding any monsters this time. A 4th Speller Trap card joins both sides of the field. And Akridge is counting his trap cards along with his blessings that he's still in this. At the end of Trivedi's turn, Mystical Space Typhoon destroys a freshly set bottomless trap hole, which was sent back there with a wiretap previously.
Another Sanctum.
He's also got a Sanctum.
In a wiretap.
Wiretap from Trivedi. Oh my goodness, somebody's got to outlaw this. Nobody's been able to resolve anything thanks to a constant stream of trap cards and counter-trap cards. Speaking of, Akridge adds a 3rd one. And Trivedi
so
adds
does
a 3rd
Trivedi.
one.
Another Typhoon.
NST destroys Sanctum. But Sanctum activates and takes out a Fiendish Chain in turn. That is the first time I've seen Mystical Space Typhoon hit a Sanctum all weekend.
Yeah.
He's lucky he hit it while it was freshly set, though, not his own turn. 3rd card for Akridge. 4th card for Trivedi. 4th card for Akridge. Monsters clearly optional at this point. They may have forgotten that they need to attack in order to win the game. Or at least summon Gaga Cowboy. And finally, a Tenki from Trivedi represents the first monster we've seen in quite a while. And Akridge has nothing. Nothing in those 4 face-down cards.
Unwilling to reveal what the 4 are.
And
We are going to game 3.
Trivedi's evened it up. That was... All right. They're ready, and they're going to very carefully and thoroughly shuffle their opponent's decks.
Again, the winner of this last and final duel will determine who will go to the finals to compete for the title of North American champion.
Akridge is, of course, up first. Trap Tricks Mirmilio up
Hits
first.
the Mirmilio. Very good start.
Bottomless Trap Hole is the choice. And I believe I heard an announcement for it being time in the round. Don't know if that
Got to be
applies
getting
here.
onto it at this point. It's been a long and hard-fought match.
We'll see if there's an extension for bringing them up to the table, though. Pot of Duality is up next, revealing Wiretap, Artifact Sanctum, and a Moral Talk.
Wiretap and Sanctum both very strong.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice to make. If you think your opponent's going to play super defensively,
Takes the Sanctum. Affords himself that extra aggression, that extra responsiveness. May know at this point that Trivedi has substantially fewer trap cards than him, so not quite as much level of import on the Wiretap.
speaking of trap
And
cards,
5 cards to the back row.
Akridge still has plenty of them. In addition to 1 card left in hand.
Yeah.
And Trivedi's probably looking at that like, oh. Fortunately, he's got the monster.
Some Mirmilio
that's-
of his own. Will its effect resolve? That's the
doesn't have to
question.
worry about bottomless trap hole, that's for certain. But there are Fiendish Chains to be considered.
And warning.
That's
Breakthrough.
breakthrough skill. Breakthrough skill now locked and loaded, just in case Trivedi has an artifact sanctum of his own. Very helpful. And we're going to see... Well, he's thinking about making the trade there, at least trying to force Akridge to play that sanctum right now if he's going to keep the Traptrix alive.
And there's the prison.
It turns out that it's Dimensional Prison. Not quite as brutal as Memory of an Adversary.
I was about to say, at least it's not a Memory of an Adversary.
Yep. Anything but that.
At the very least.
And we did, in fact, hear the announcement that it was time in the round. End of the match procedure now beginning. And at the end of Trivedi's turn, after setting 5 cards, Akridge is special summoning Artifact Moraltak. At this point, damage is incredibly important. If the announcement time was to be believed, time was called by the end of Akridge's turn, which would give Trivedi the last turn.
Akridge now in a good position just to get some damage in. No fear of Torrential, no fear of Blackhorn. Yeah, just going in.
Traptrix Mirror attacks, and it is looking like it's going to be successful. Trivedi doesn't have an answer to it, and that puts Akridge in the lead.
He's not playing the prisons, not playing memories himself. Doesn't want to fiendish chain those cards right now, probably.
He's got 1 prison that he might have sided in, but I think he would be using it against the bigger of the 2 monsters.
Artifact Ignition on Moraltak?
One of the 2. How brutal would it be if he started with multiple Moraltaks again?
Yeah. Opened with 1.
He sets a second. And that's not a bad play, because it's going to take Akridge's Moraltak out of commission, most likely. Now, Moraltak activates. Its summon is successful. And this would be a total blowout if there was a Traptrix Trap-Hole Nightmare, and Trivedi chose to use the effect. But he's got to make up some damage now at this point. Or rather, he doesn't. It appears he's done it in response to Mirmaleo's attack, which makes more sense. Bottomless Trap Hole is chained to the effect of Moraltak, and Book of Moon is chained to that. Breakthrough Skill is chained from the graveyard to
again.
That, and that'll keep both of Akridge's monsters in play.
Akridge definitely came out on the better end of that.
Breakthrough Skill resolves first. Book of Moon resolves next. And now the question that it appears they are going over with the judge is, does flipping Moraltak face down save it from Breakthrough Skill? And in fact, it's going to, because the second effect of Breakthrough Skill targets 1 face-up effect monster your opponent controls, and it negates that target's effect. Oh no, sorry, I've got the chain backwards. My apologies, Breakthrough Skill was second in chain. But it still flips face down and becomes unaffected by Breakthrough Skill, and that is why
there's Trivedi's 1 prison.
Moraltak is in the graveyard right now.
Trivedi keeps his Moraltak on the field.
Book of Moon, severing it from the effect of Breakthrough Skill, saves the day there.
Akridge has another attacker.
Yep. Dimensional Prison takes out the Mirror, and Call of the Haunted brings out Moral Talk to attack again. And he's got more trap cards.
And Trivedi has Call of his own.
This is getting out of control.
Back and forth we go.
And if we are indeed correct and Trivedi gets the last turn, this one attack could be it.
That call from Akridge might have been premature. But at this point, he's just trying to push through damage because he's in time.
He's attacking.
Another call. It wasn't premature at all. He knew exactly what he was doing. Wow.
Second call of the Haunted. And Trivedi's Moral Talk goes down.
Might have just been Akridge winning his way to the finals.
Another set card.
Yep.
Second monster. He makes the attack, and that's it.
Wow. Deon Akridge moves on to the finals.
Excellent play from Trivedi in that last game.
Awesome game.
But the second call of the Haunted seals it for Akridge. And just in case anybody's still confused, the reason the Morale Tech was destroyed in the first place was the other Morale Tech going face down and being severed from the effect of Breakthrough Skill.